Hello, and I'm so excited today to catch up with Fiona because I really wanted to speak to Fiona about lots of different things. And I've got my phone that's now gone off because I just want to go a little bit deeper from our last video, which is up on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to pass the microphone over to Fiona to introduce herself. But Fiona's been a huge, huge, huge help in my understanding because, as you know, I had that Christian upbringing, and then I kind of like fell into the new age. And then it's through talking to Fiona and to Thomas and to Tina and Alona that is kind of like I don't, what's the word? It's almost like took me back to what I really believed, not believed in, I don't like that word, but took me back to my roots. And there is something about Fiona that it just ignites my heart so much because she has got such a wealth of knowledge and wisdom. I love listening to her talk to other people, and then to spend time with you, Fiona, it's absolutely honor to me. And and even just having this arranged, like with everything that's going off in my life at the moment, I don't know. I needed today, but I feel like what you share gives so much hope, for a better word. So that's how I feel. And I wanted to speak to Fiona today about herbs for well-being. I wanted to ask Fiona things about like how can our ancestors help us in the present day to heal upset and fear in our bodies, how that connection to our ancestors, because from what I understand standing now is that when we honor our ancestors and we acknowledge them, we give like simple little gifts like a poem or a flower or some incense or a little bit of Bacardi, not Bacardi, brandy. We kind of like giving those gifts, we're nurturing them, and in turn they nurture us. So it's not about take, take, take. And then I also wanted to ask Fiona about the energy at the moment, because to me it really feels like pea soup. One day I can wake up feeling really energized and optimistic, and then other days I can just wake up thinking I just don't feel motivated, and it's affecting my sleep as well. And then I also wanted to ask Fiona about dreams. Are our dreams messages from the future? So that's the whole reason for my topic today and connecting with Fiona. But I've just chatted away. So I just want to pass it over to Fiona. And Fiona, because the other thing I want to add is I've had two readings with Fiona. One's an ancestral reading, and then one was one I had it for my birthday for the year ahead. And unlike other readings in the past, from Fiona's readings, I felt empowered and inspired and uplifted. And it's not all airy fairy unicorns and popcorn. It is very like, this is this, and this is what you need to know. This is what you need to focus. And I find those sort of readings so much way more empowering than the other type. And so, yeah, received so much help from Fiona that I just think, if you're seeking a reading, see Fiona. But I will now hand over to you, Fiona.
Thank you very much, Jenny. You're too kind. I'm Fiona Aedgar. I'm an astrologer. I've been an astrologer for, I guess, 12 or 13 years? I can't remember. I'm a polytheist. Like Jenny, I fell into the new age for quite some time. Kind of drifted around on that for a while, and then I went onto my ancestral path and never looked back. And I've done a lot of different things. I'm interested in everything spiritual, like you, Jenny. So I've done a lot of experimenting and researching and that type of thing. I also have a strong interest in health and healing.
And that is something that I was at work yesterday, and I was messaging you about certain things that are happening in in my life at the moment. And I just and you mentioned some herbs. I think they're herbs. And I thought, gosh, like I didn't, and that's another thing that I'm feeling very drawn to, because I had a conversation with Elizabeth as well, who spoke about the herbs. But before I get into the health bit, does it make sense to you when I say about how it just feels like pea soup at the moment?
Yeah, it does. It's a confusing time, and we're very up and down at the moment. And the astrological reason for that is because Saturn is in Pisces. So Pisces is mystical and it's dreamy and it has rose-tinted glasses about things. So Saturn is like this kind of very strict grandfather. And he's exposing all of the areas in life at the moment um that we were not seeing clearly. And also there is very little optimism at the moment. And I think that's why Jupiter is also in a sign that he doesn't like being in. And Jupiter is the planet of optimism and, good fortune and good things to come. So both of those planets change signs in the summertime. Saturn goes into Aries pretty soon. I think it's next month. I can't remember the date, but I think things will shift a little bit then. We'll still have bad things going on in the world and we'll still be bombarded with all of these crazy stories from the world, which our nervous systems are not equipped to deal with. Go back 1,000 years, you only knew what was going on in your village or nearby, not every terrible thing that happened in the world. And I think that a lot of health issues these days come from the fact that people are frying their nervous systems.
Yeah, because I like with that post on, Facebook where it said about like the sun, you automatically think, oh my gosh, without sunshine, if they're trying to do something about it, then we need sunshine. And then I was like, what about the birds? What about the flowers? And I agree with you. Since my conversation with you last year, I've really taken a step back from how much I've stopped going down rabbit holes and I've stopped kind of like being interested in so much of the outside world, and it's really helped me. But those who know me close will know about the last 5 years of my life, and it has affected my nervous system. And I think that too much overload from social media, and it's still, we're not geared. So that's explained a lot because I thought, oh my gosh, is it only me in this pea soup? But obviously not. So from the pea soup, can we then go into the health, please? Because I love it when I hear people like you and Elizabeth and Ilona talk about how things grown in our garden has so much natural properties in aiding our well-being.
Yeah. And nature will always offer us what we need in our own gardens and land. There's like an intelligence behind it all. Whatever is growing in abundance is quite likely to be a plant that you need in your body. For example, dandelions everywhere, in Ireland and the UK. Well, they're drying if you have like problems from excess moisture in your body, so you're too moist. It's a drying plant. So if you just like eat some of the roots, you can make it into a nice coffee and the leaves and the flowers. It's really going to go a long way to improve your health. But people put Roundup on them and cut them down. It's really sad.
So, can you make the leaves of the dandelion into like a tea?
It's the root
Oh,
that
is
you
it
would
the
use. And
how?
actually, it was used in the war when there were shortages of coffee and tea and things. You basically just dig them up, the root, and wash it, put it in the oven and roast it. And then once it's roasted and kind of dry, you can blend it, and it's a really nice drink. It's kind of like a sort of coffee, Ovaltine-ish, and you can put your milk in it if you want and honey, and it's really, really tasty.
I've got some dandelions in the garden, and like, and And I refuse to let any of that that feed and weed go on the lawn. So that's completely safe for me to. Wow, thank you. What is something that's really good for our eyes? Like something,
Eyes. There is eye bright
yeah.
and castor oil as well. I
All
don't want to
right.
say too much because we're on YouTube and they don't kind of like that. If you had, for example, cataracts, I've heard of people using that a few drops in your eyes and it eventually gets rid of the cataracts.
Really?
Yeah. And it depends on what your problem is. I mean, for something like retinopathy, diabetic retinopathy, you can use bilberry. So you can buy that anywhere. It tones blood vessels and it stops them from leaking. Or cayenne pepper.
Wow. Yeah, because my husband was diagnosed with diabetes when he was 10, and then he had retinopathy, and the his treatment was to have like the lasers, which obviously damaged the outer peripheral of the eyes, and which ultimately he was told if he didn't have it done, he would go blind, but he was also told if he had too much, he would end up losing his driving license, and that has actually come true. The other one I wanted to ask you about was like gum care, teeth. Is there anything that is good for teeth and gums?
A lot of people try oil pulling. So it's from Ayurveda, the ancient Indian health system. And you can put coconut oil or something, sesame oil, some people use, and you swish it and swish it and swish it around your mouth for as long as you can, 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and it really helps your gums. The other thing would be if you have kind of loose gums or recession or bleeding gums, the bark of pine tree.
Doesn't cloves help as well? Cloves.
Yeah, they're really antibacterial. So if you have a bacterial thing going on, that will help.
Right. So it is really like nature in our garden is like everything is there to help us maintain this sense of no, not sense, this well-being and everything. What was the other thing I wanted to ask you about? Hmm. I can't think now. I should have wrote it down. I'm terrible with memory. Anything for memories?
Memories?
Yeah, keeping your memory alert.
Oh, quite a lot. MCT oil.
Ah,
It's that really pure coconut oil. It's got these essential fatty acids in it. Your brain needs fat. Rosemary is known to improve the memory, and they actually have done scientific studies on that. So you can eat rosemary or smell it, just the scent alone. Have a bath, but also your diet, because when we eat too many of the wrong foods, you get that brain fog. If I eat cake or something, like the next day I have brain fog and I can't remember anything. And I get very into like an ADHD state where I'll go and do something and then forget what I was doing. So I think it all has a connection. And
yeah.
diet is really individual. For thousands of years, Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine have been telling people there is no one diet that fits all because we all have different bodies, different birth charts. We live in different environments. And when I lived in Ireland, because Ireland is so moist, it's always raining and always wet. I couldn't eat moistening foods because I would get water retention and sluggish and mucus. But Denmark is much more dry than Ireland, and I can get away with eating more moistening foods here. So it depends on the person as well.
But you mentioned yesterday too in the conversation about fasting, and that's something my daughter really is like. I'm not really noticed a difference. Like, and you said fasting was good for on so many levels, isn't it? Because it gives the body the opportunity to stop and rest and
Yeah,
get on with its stuff.
it does. When the digestive system isn't busy with food, it can do a lot of healing in the body. And I always think, well, what do dogs and cats do when they're sick? They fast.
Mm.
They don't eat because they know that their body needs to put this energy towards healing instead of food. But especially in the West, we think food is the cure for everything and we never stop eating. Don't get me
No.
wrong, I love my food, but I've also been a sick person.
Yeah, because again, like yeah, and it isn't about diet, the reason why I'm talking to you about the podcast, because like you say, what suits one person won't suit another. So it's just listening to your body and finding the things that suit you. That yes, I just one more question re the health, because like I understood like kind of like iodine's really kind of like good, but that can cause problems if you take too much iodine. Is there anything a herb that's good for like cysts in your breasts and maintain good health?
Systemic enzymes.
Mm.
So they're systemic enzymes.
Is that what it is, cysts in your breasts?
No, the help for that or
Ah,
the remedy,
the remedy.
one of them is they're called systemic enzymes, and they're enzymes that are naturally made by the body, but they are depleted with age. You can actually supplement those, and they're known to get rid of fibroids, cysts, and that type of thing. But there is a connection with iodine as
Yeah.
well. But if you're a diabetic, you can't take mega doses of it because it will cause problems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's why I always think like before embarking off to your local health food shop is kind of like speaking to somebody who's specialized in the different supplements and knows the meaning and gives you a thorough questionnaire to see what's suitable. Like I didn't realize the connection between iodine and diabetics
I
at all.
didn't either until I learned the hard way. I've been
Yeah.
a lifelong type 1 diabetic and I was having some issues with my breasts and I mega dosed iodine and then I started to have eye problems. And
Yeah.
I was like, what has changed? Because, when you start to feel unwell suddenly, it must have been, what's the cause of it? The only thing that had changed for me was the iodine. And then I found this study that spoke about this guy who megadosed iodine and immediately gave himself diabetic retinopathy. So you have to be careful with herbs and supplements and go to someone who knows what they're doing, like Alona Woods, for example, um, because you can cause yourself some serious damage.
Yeah, I totally agree. And Alona's amazing. She gave me a homeopathic consultation, and the questions that she was asking me, it was so in depth and everything. It was just amazing. So that's covered the house. So thank you so much for that. One of the things you said, and I was just like looking at my phone, an ancestral rune reading. Were you
Hmm.
offering to do one of those, or would you like to delve into it?
Well, that's just I do ancestral astrology readings, but I'm very private about the information because I'm writing a book on it. But with the ancestral rune reading, um, I pull runes for the mother's line and I pull runes for the father's line. And then I pull runes on what is the wound and how can it be fixed. It's really simple. I mean, people can do it with tarot cards as well or other forms of divination that they prefer. You can use the runes for anything really.
And it is very empowering. And well, from my reading with you, I learned so much about my mother's line and my father's line, which explained a lot of things that, I was dealing with. And am I correct in saying, like, when we start to bring that healing or recognition or understanding, that we kind of like it goes back the generations and then goes forwards the generations of bringing that acknowledgement to what's come up in the reading. Is that correct way of saying it?
Yeah. I mean, it can help everyone that comes after you that is descended from you. And some problems go back way back, those ancestral patterns. You can trace it, if you know your family history. So it's really worthwhile and it's something that everyone should look into.
I wonder, Fiona, because I had that ancestral reading with you before the year was up, and I'm beginning to wonder now whether, because I did what you suggested, like by looking at it and looking back, I wonder whether it's now that's what's cleared everything in my personal life at the moment. Like there's been a massive shift without going into huge details. I mean, it was going on for 5 years, and then all of a sudden everything's getting sorted now. And I wonder whether that's linking into the ancestral reading I had with you, because finally I'm getting the help and the support that I need in my personal life. Does that make sense?
It does, and it could be connected to that. I mean, that's kind of what happened to me when I started to do the ancestral work, is when my life really started to move forward. Before that, it's kind of like, trying to swim with a bunch of weights on you. The ancestral trauma is the weight that keeps making you sink to the bottom. And a lot of other people I know that have done the ancestral work experience the same thing. It's not going to make your life incredible all of a sudden, but you will be able to make progress by your efforts. Whereas when you have a lot of this ancestral stuff, you try and you try and you try, and it's so difficult and you don't get to where you want to be.
Yeah, and that's what when I look back now, like talking to you, that's I just kept hitting like dead ends, dead ends, dead ends. And even though there's been a major shift, it isn't, I'm still in that process of like I haven't it's not like all like hunky dory, and if anything, it's all very unknown for me at the moment. But even though I have days where I wobble and days where I feel strong, I know something has shifted, and the only way is to keep on going until I get to where I need to go. And one of the things I noticed was like, too, with the ancestral, like I think once you open that door to them, isn't it? It doesn't get closed again, does it? Once you make that connection, they and you kind of like say, I acknowledge you, and I know now that you're still there. And I love one of the things Eleanor said was, we are going to be the ancestors, so we've got to clean our I was going to swear then, but you know what I mean, our act up together, because we're going to be ancestors. But I was writing in my journal, like I was just pouring my heart out, and it was on I think it was Tuesday, just pouring it, no, Monday, pouring it all out. And then it was almost like, as I was saying everything I felt, I was getting these phone calls from people, like, and it felt to me like my ancestors were saying, "You're not on your own. Like, we're listening to everything you're saying. We're going to give you the answers." Does that make sense?
It does make sense, and I've had that feeling as well. You just know that they're present and they want us to acknowledge them and not forget about them. And you can ask them for help, if you need help, and they will respond.
And one of the other things I wanted to ask you, can the ancestors, or how can we heal the upset and fear in our bodies? Because when we go through a very stressful time, that that fear and that stress and that upset kind of like stays within the body, and the body doesn't recognize, it doesn't have labels, it just recognizes that emotion, that energy that's being created. Do you have any advice on how, like, if someone was diagnosed with like PTSD, which is post stress traumatic disorder, is there anything we can do? Like, 'cause I'm always interested in what can we do to, obviously the doctors are there and the medical help's there and everything else is there, but is there anything we can do to help that? Do you know?
Homeopathy,
I mean,
because it works on a physical level, a spiritual level, mental, and even ancestral. It realigns you back to where your best point is. And I have really worked with homeopathy through some of the worst times, and it's always helped me. So again, Alona Woods or Renata Hines. I just recorded a video with her actually a couple of days ago from the Moss Wife's Brew, my podcast on Substack. And she's also a homeopath. And of course, homeopathy has been demonized throughout the years, and it's super cheap. You can buy a remedy for like £3. Um, so it's really worth looking into. There's a lot of nonsense written about it. You know, they say it's a placebo, then they say it's dangerous. Well, which is it? Which is it? And it's a very ancient practice. It was kind of rediscovered by a German guy in I think it was the 1700s. I can't remember, but obviously it'd been used in kind of folk medicine for a long time before that. It's worth looking into.
Thank you. Right. Bless Alona. She's going to get a message from me now. Alona.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was that cheap. Um, to the actual remedies. How it is? What's the name of your podcast again? It's the Moss.
Moss Wife's Brew, and it's on Substack.
That sounds really, really interesting. It sounds to me like women coming together, and obviously men as well, coming into someone's kitchen and talking about the old ways and the old ways of doing things and sharing
Yeah.
that wisdom and knowledge. Is that correct way of describing?
That is correct. Now, the actual phrase, the Moss Wife's Brew, uh, in Denmark, there is a kind of mist that appears. It's like a fog. It's like a circle of fog. And traditionally speaking, they used to think, oh, there's spirits in it, or it's from a witch, you know, the Moss Wife's Brew. It's like a witch's brew. And I just thought, oh, I love that. Because I'd never heard of it before. And then I thought that would be a really good name for a podcast. So then it just started to unfold. I mean, I've always had a really big interest in natural medicine and healing, but most of my work has been, public work has been with astrology. So then I thought it was time to really start to speak about remedies and healing and speak to people that knew what they were talking about. Because I think that we need that in the world. And it just kind of took off from there.
How much is it? Because with Substack, because it's paid membership, isn't it? With this one, because you're giving a lot of information and a lot of time goes in it, and I think to have anything of value, it should be an exchange of energy, shouldn't it? In
Yeah.
return. So with a Substack, you can either pay monthly, yearly, or make a gift. Am I correct?
That's right. Yeah. I mean, I got a lot of people that were giving me money through Substack before the podcast. And one of the reasons I wanted to create a paid podcast was to thank them
I see.
because now it's $8 a month, or you can pay $80 for a year's worth. So in pounds, that's what, a bit less, like £6 a month or something.
Yeah.
I made it to kind of thank them. And I also have an astrology section where it's not the mundane astrology that I'm talking about, like the average astrological weather. It's about how we can use astrology to, for example, the best time to meditate, what you can meditate on, the best time to do a ritual or an ancestor ritual, things like that.
Oh, that's lovely. That really, I love that. So forget what I said about exchange of energy. It was a way of you saying thank you to those who subscribed. Um, so that is beautiful. What was else I was going to ask you?
But that is an exchange of energy. So they gave me their energy and I responded by
Giving energy
making,
back.
yeah, yeah.
It sounds amazing. I think it's something I need to subscribe to. I really do because I've always myself been interested in that healing, but not to the depth or the degree that you and everyone else understands it, like, to me, the dandelion was just the dandelion. I know it could help with heart, but I didn't know we could make it a drink into it, and with Elizabeth, I've got the rosemary and I could make myself like take a few twigs and then I can make myself a rosemary tea, So
Mm.
for me, for me wanting to learn more, that's an ideal place for me to go because there's people like you and the others who've got years and years of experience and study behind them. Um, I want to ask you another little question. It's completely random because I was watching another podcast and it was with Kate from the Hairphone.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hair,
and
hair and the hawthorn, I think.
that's right. And Andy, and they were talking about fairies, and I was listening to them. And I'm writing. I've actually started it, writing as a book for Elsie, my granddaughter, and I'm like drawing. I'm drawing fairies. So actually, this is my. Oh, I can't see it, but this is my book, and I probably won't be able to see it because I blurred the camera. But like drawing,
Oh, I can see.
yeah, drawing fairies. And then I thought, and then they were saying about how this how this realm is. So I'd like to ask you, Fiona, what do you think this realm is? Because
Hmm. It's a tough question to ask. I don't 100% know, but in Nordic mythology, this was Midgard. It is a realm. This is the kind of middle realm, the realm of humans. So maybe if we successfully navigate this realm, we can go into another one. I don't know, but this is a hard place to be. And
yes,
it's almost like being here, you get your worst fears kind of thrown into your face a lot, and it's how do you deal with that?
because
Um,
because in writing Elsie's little story, because I asked you again about I said to you what time she was born and everything like that. And then I started kind of like doing a little bit of like looking a little bit deeper, and like there's gods and goddesses connected to each of the star signs too. Am I right in saying that?
yes, yes, you're correct.
Lovely. When we talk about Libra, Aquarius, Cancer, are they stars or planets?
Those are signs.
Signs.
Yeah. So the signs, there are two different zodiacs. There's one that is sidereal and it's based on the stars. And then there is a zodiac, it's called the tropical zodiac, and it's based on the cycle of the sun or the seasons. There's a lot of annoying stuff about this. Astrologers will argue amongst each other. All of the ancient astrologers use both zodiacs. So it's very like one versus the other now, but you're supposed to use the stars and the path of the sun. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever to cut one of those out and pretend that it doesn't exist. So they're both supposed to be used. Um, so with the tropical zodiac, it is about the seasons. So every time that we have the spring equinox, for example, is when the sun goes into Aries. When we have the summer solstice, it's when the sun goes into Cancer and so on. It's like a solar calendar.
So the stars, the signs like of the zodiac, that's a journey through the year. Then
Yeah, it is.
I didn't know that.
No, a lot of people don't talk about it, but the ancient astrologers always did, which is why if you want to learn about astrology, it's best not to read any like modern books. Read the ancient ones, like for example, The Soul of Astrology by William Salmon and The Tetrabiblos by Claudius Ptolemy. He's a very famous astrologer from Egypt.
Or they can learn with you.
Yeah, me too. I am a teacher of astrology and it's not new age stuff. But people are so, I think even modern astrologers don't go out and look at the sky because we have software. The software shows us everything. There's a massive disconnect between what we can actually see in the sky and what we're looking at in the birth chart.
It's blown me away, Fiona, because I didn't know that the zodiac signs was the journey of the year. I just blown me away, that has. And when and that was the other thing with Elsie's little one. I was saying to her, right, because Libra, or I can't pronounce that name for that. Freya is the goddess of Taurus. Is that correct? Do you know
Not
something?
not Freya because she is Nordic.
Ah,
But Venus. So Venus, or is the Roman goddess. Now, the planets are named after gods and goddesses, but they are not gods and goddesses. The ancient ones saw astrology as little messages that the gods left us in the sky.
ah,
They are named after them, but it's not the same thing.
right. Well, I'm sure Elsie won't mind that I put Freya as the goddess of Taurus.
No, no, not at all. I mean, she is a goddess that has very similar qualities to Venus. She's a Venusian type of goddess, but because they didn't use astrology, they wouldn't have called her that, if you know what I mean.
So I feel like this is so interesting. So Venus is the ruling of Taurus,
Taurus and Libra. Yeah, they're
Taurus,
two
and
two different sides of Venus.
so so that some of the planets rule over, or some of the stars rule over this. So going back to the zodiac are called zodiac signs, yeah,
Hmm.
and the planets can have an effect on some of the zodiac signs.
So the planets will journey through the zodiac signs in their journey. Sorry. Right now, the sun is in Taurus. So
Right.
it's moving through the Taurus season. It's like a section of the sky. So they will journey through the zodiac. It's like a path or a road that they travel on.
Right. It's all very complex, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Right. No more questions because my head is going to like I was just like her little oh gosh. And the thing is, when I was like looking like into like I had to Google like which of the gods and goddess what they're, and there's like this story going on because there's some good guys, and then the Loki, isn't it? They're the bad guys.
Hmm.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Loki is a
Loki.
specific entity that is said to cause Ragnarok. So he was never worshipped as a god because there are no places named after him. There are plenty of places named after Odin, Freya, but they never worshipped Loki or treated him as a god. Now, there are obviously people in the modern times that call themselves Loki worshippers, of course, because everything's back to front now, but traditionally he was not venerated.
Wow. Because there's another, I mean, I hope I got it right, but then I was going by Google, so who knows what, because you can't always trust Google, can you? Um, Ran, is it Ran? Is that how you pronounce it? Or
Ran,
the goddess of the sea.
yeah, there are quite a lot of different ones. There's also Njord, who is the god of the sea. So there are quite a lot, and it takes a lot of studying to understand them all. And the thing is that how do we know that all of the information is correct? Because it was banned and passed through Christianity. For example, myths about the Irish pantheon, they were written down by Christian monks. So obviously that was heavily censored. So you have to take everything with a pinch of salt as well, I guess.
Well, it's a fairy tale, so perhaps I got some details wrong, but I'm not going into great depth with it, so else it'll be fine.
I think you'll be fine, don't worry. I mean, don't worry too much about it.
Yeah, I
Sorry to
mean,
sorry to ruin your day, but no, honestly, like just do your research.
yeah. I mean, I've only like touched on it because I wanted Elsie to know because this podcast sounds like it's all about Elsie. I wanted her to know because I was able to say to you where she was born, like Wakefield, what time, the day, and everything, and you were able to tell me what her rising sun was, her sun sign, and what her moon sign was. If that's correct, because the rising sign shows someone's personality that they show to the world.
Yeah, the rising sign is about your physical body, and it's also about the way other people will perceive you, and it's about changes that you will go through in life that cause you to grow and how you deal with changes. So it's pretty important.
And the sun sign, what does that represent?
Sun represents your leadership abilities, your general personality. It's an area that you can become really good at as you get older.
And
And
your
then
moon sign?
moon sign is internalized. It's your instincts. It's said to be the personality that you had or experiences in past lives.
Really?
Yeah. Now, for someone to know your moon sign, they need to know you pretty well because it's like your heart.
Uh-huh.
Little kids will act from their moon sign, their instincts. And all three of those together are said to be like, they're not the most important, but they're pretty important in someone's birth chart.
Gosh. Do you do birth charts for children, or can you recommend someone who does if you don't do them?
I don't write them, but I will do readings for a kid, but I will never make predictions or anything like that
No.
because it's not ethical.
No, it's
As far as anyone that writes about kids, I can recommend my former student, Olivia Solner.
wonderful.
She writes birth charts, and I'm sure she would do it, and I can recommend her because I trained her myself.
And that's a lovely gift, isn't it? Like it's kind of like you say, it's not predicting what's going to happen, but it's just saying this is the traits of who the I think it's the holistic look on a little child's life. And like if someone says you can be a little bit impatient, then it's kind of like when that's one of your things, that you can be impatient, and therefore, okay, don't always act on the spur of the moment, is it? It's empowering, isn't it? Any
It
information.
is. And it can make a parent's life a lot easier if you have a kid and half of their chart is in fire signs or they're Aries, they're not going to be able to sit down for the whole day. In fact, it's cruel to make them do that. Some kids that have a lot of Gemini in their chart, like myself, would struggle to focus in school. Instead of giving them medication, why don't you do something that is going to bring out the best in that child instead of trying to make them fit into a box?
Oh my gosh, you're just amazing, you are, Fiona. But that is such. Yeah, 'cause, again, like I'm not a great lover of schools, but it's like in the nursery where I work at, we look at each child and we see what their strengths are, and then we just encourage those strengths. So out of interest, Elsie was born on the 1st of May, and so her sun sign is Taurus, isn't it?
Yeah.
So how would you describe a little Taurine Elsie?
Oh, they may. Taurus is very connected to like everyday reality stuff. They're very grounded, and it's known to be a sign. If she has her stuff there, she will not want anyone to touch it or take it. Because Taurus is like, this is mine, that is yours, don't come onto my territory. She also will need regular meals and to eat regularly, which of course can be the case for everyone, but in particular her. She needs a good diet. She needs grounding foods. She might be really stubborn because Taurus is a fixed sign.
Yeah,
She's not
she
going to
is.
want to be forced into doing things. She may not be the most like physically active child, because Taurus is, it's the bull. It runs when it has to, but it doesn't want to run all day.
So that like, and that's just based on what her actual sun sign is. So that's her physical body, isn't it?
So that's a rising sign.
Oh, her rising sign is would her rising sign be? Oh gosh, where did I write it down? Bear with me.
Didn't you say it was Taurus? Taurus
She's
rising?
in,
Oh no, Taurus sun. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Her rising sign, Aquarius is in Libra.
Libra. So she's Venusian then in different ways because Libra is also ruled by Venus. So that planet Venus is super important in her birth chart. It's going to be very important throughout life. And she is going to be somebody that doesn't like conflict. She's peaceful. She has a strong focus on beauty and harmony. She might have artistic tendencies. She's not going to do well in a chaotic environment. She will struggle to focus if there's a lot of noise and things like that. She might get upset, but be unable to articulate why. If there's a lot of fuss and going on and, things like that. But when she gets older, she's going to have a strong sense of style and beauty. She could do well in some kind of career that would focus on aesthetics, many different options.
Wow. I think every parent who has a child should kind of like book a reading with you to understand their child and make that child's life the best possible version it can be. Because when you understand the makeup to the child, because of where the signs are, and when in Australia, I didn't realize what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. I didn't realize just how important astrology was. Fiona, how it can bring harmony into a little child's life and make a huge difference for them and the parents, isn't it?
Yeah, it can. It really can. It's a good way to understand your child better and to focus on their needs and also what they're going to be really good at and what they're going to struggle with.
So is the rising sign the just to rephrase it again, the rising sign, is that quite a bit more important than the sun sign?
It's not more important, they just represent different things that are important.
Yeah. And then her Aquarius was in her moon, where the moon was. So my understanding of Aquarius is like they're very like they learn to trust. If they trust you, they'll let you into their hearts. Is that correct?
It is correct. They focus on humanity. They care about what's going on with humanity more than their own needs. They might, as it's an air sign, they're going to be strongly intellectual. Um, yeah, it's ruled by Saturn in traditional astrology, which is what I use. And she could be a bit of a mad scientist. Aquarius is quite eccentric. But of course, being her moon sign, that's not going to come out to most people. She might be accused of being detached when in fact she just has healthy emotions.
Good
So
girl.
you've told me she's a double air then because she's got Aquarius moon and she's got Libra rising.
I'm 100% sure that I'm correct. I wrote it down when I asked you. Yeah, carry on talking about double air.
Yeah, so she's going to be that air element is dominant within her personality and her life. She'll approach problems from with an intellectual way. She might be quite detached. She's always thinking about how to improve things. She's going to be focused on communication, uh, air. I'm
Yeah,
quite
no,
an airy person myself. I've got quite a lot of Gemini in my chart.
yeah, no, I found it. I asked you on the 22nd of December 2024, and yeah, Elsie's rising is Libra, Sun, Taurus, and Aquarius in Moon. So that's really interesting. So she's going to love her Nana then, isn't she? Because I'm different to most Nanas.
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
We can get up to mischief.
Yes, you will. And Aquarius is out of the box. They don't think the same way that others do. They are not influenced by the crowd or the masses.
Oh, brilliant.
And she obviously gets that from you because in the moon it represents the mother, the grandmother. So there you are. She has got that from you, which is great.
Oh, you made my day, you have, Fiona. I hope anyone who's listening to this feels really inspired to get reading. I haven't asked you to come on to, it's not to like, oh, promote Fiona. I mean, I think everyone should go to, I mean, you've got some amazing people that have trained with you, and they are amazing astrologists in their own right, and they've branched off in their different directions too. But I really do think people might, I just find it so fascinating. Well, no, not fascinating. I just find it so interesting, and because again, because I look after babies, like Elsie, she's only like 11 months she was, and she was given this baby doll, a bottle, and I've never in my life seen another baby reenact that scene with a
Yeah.
baby doll and a bot. And
Ah.
then she does this thing with her mummy where she's like sleeping bunnies and she'll put her head down and then she'll jump up and like she's so switched on. I've got
Mm.
my theories as well, why, but obviously with this astrology, it just proves. And then I think what you do, you get so much more out of them, don't you? Then as an individual, and for me to watch her grow now, thinking, oh my gosh, this is who you are, little Elsie. And
Yeah.
every child is that little unique being, and we shouldn't squash them and mold them. Or, like you say, some children are not born to sit,
No.
and it's
No.
cruel.
It is cruel, especially little boys, that might have a lot of fire in their charts. They want to be outside in the forest, learning life skills, and they don't want to sit down and at a desk all day. It's terrible. But of course, the purpose of school is not to create individuals, it's to create little robots that are going to conform.
Yeah. Do you think there's I mean, I know a lot of people that are homeschooling children. Do you think that, because if I'm right and correct in thinking, it was only through the Victorian period that they kind of like came upon that not no, it didn't come upon that concept, but it's somebody had, I can't remember who it was, but it was round about the Victorian age where they realised if they started schooling, they're going to produce the next mass of people to work the factories, basically. That's correct, isn't
I
it?
think, I'm not sure, but it sounds right to me.
Yeah,
Anyway, that's what they're doing because back in the old days, it was up to the parent or a lot of them were illiterate. But education is important, but not when it is brainwashing or trying to make them all the same.
yeah, because the Rudolf Steiner schools are very. Um, I've never been one, so I'm going to forget that bit. But do you think the tide is changing, Fiona? Do you think things are beginning to move in a better direction?
In the world,
Yeah, with the children.
with the children, I think I know a lot of parents that choose to homeschool for
Yeah.
various different reasons because they don't want their kids being polluted by some of the evilness that is promoted in schools. And if I
Yeah.
had a child, I would also homeschool. I know someone that homeschools their kids and he's taught them ancient Greek, Latin, astrology. Uh, it's incredible. And he's a pretty young guy as well. That's why I
Wow.
keep saying that younger generation, the ones in their 20s, they're quite awake. And of course, to look at the internet and all of that, you wouldn't think so. But I think that they are really fantastic.
Because you were saying you've been like at the beginning before it was recorded, you were saying that you've done some readings for some young people and they've been born knowing what is what
I
already, haven't
have.
they?
Yeah, a lot of young guys in their late teens, early 20s somehow have been born awake. And it's like they died for that in past lives and now they've come back and they seem to be immune to programming, brainwashing, even what's on the news and that type of thing. And
Yeah.
I'm just like, wow, you're amazing. There
Yeah.
was nobody like that when I was your age.
Ditto.
And they're just incredible.
Yeah.
So I think there is hope. There's a lot of hope. We're not lost.
No. And also like with Atlantis, like a lot of the survivors being reborn in now are the survivors, no, not survivors, were around when Atlantis was here. That's something I've heard.
It could be. It could be that. And maybe soldiers that died in wars. Who knows? But they've come back for a reason.
Yeah. Because when after a big war, there's an increase in boys being born, isn't there?
I was just going to say that. I saw
Yeah.
that the other day, and it
That's
doesn't surprise me, especially since men are the ones that get killed off during wars, and that, a whole generation is almost wiped out. It's also the intelligence of nature.
yeah.
Nature knows that they need more men, so provides. But I don't know.
No. Is there anything you wanted to add to this podcast? I feel like you've let me just double check my questions, but you've answered all my questions. It was one of those conversations where I'm going to listen back to it and go, gosh, but then the whole idea of the podcast for me is my understanding, and I think there's so many people that are on board with me that are kind of like we're all on this little journey of like, okay, well, we've all gone down that new agey, we've all kind of had a religious upbringing, and we're all kind of like, well, what is this reality? And what is health all about, and what is education, and what is the children? It's like the whole what is reality, and you've answered all my questions, but there is just something just um tapping me on my shoulder saying something else. um no, I'm just going to end. I asked you a question, then I never actually asked you. I went off on a tangent. What do you think to fairies?
Fairies, I think, are real beings, and they're nature spirits. And I think that Disney and all of those children's programs has really warped like our perception of them. In Ireland, a lot of the fairies were seen as being as big as humans, but they were tricksters. You don't want to get on the wrong side of them. And in ancient Ireland, they were really superstitious about fairies. My parents live beside a fairy fort in Ireland. The house is right beside it.
Wow.
And they always have tons of activity on their land. The gate stopped working. People tap my dad on the shoulder all the time. He sees flashes of light in the living room. The activity is intense. Now, there are good fairies, there are bad fairies, and there's everything in between. They're not really that much different from us. So be cautious when you go onto that path. I used to leave them out offerings. Didn't ask them for anything. I just left some things out, which is traditionally what they always did to appease them. A saucer of milk, some cakes or some butter, something like that.
Yeah, but no, my dogs are going to eat. I poured some milk in the ground, and then the dogs were digging the ground up, and then they had poo bottoms. Um, One other thing. So right, I'm just going to put that name there so I don't forget, because this is something else I spoke to you in a conversation which I think is very, very important, and I didn't even think about it. So, with my fairies for Elsie, they're actually, I realize they're all flower fairies. And some, like, one's called Strength, and she says, like, I am sassy, I'm not perfect, but I'm strength, I'm strong. So they've got their little personalities, but I'm not going to bring harm into my life by drawing the fairies, am I, Fiona?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But no, I don't think so. But you might want to leave an offering in the forest.
To
I
say
know.
thank you.
Yeah. Or at night when your dog's in bed in the house.
Out the
Leave.
front.
I would, because our ancestors left offerings to all of the spirits, spirits of the trees, the rivers, the sun, ancestors, fairies. So I think it's just a good thing to do anyway.
I
But I don't
will.
think that you're going to bring harm into your life.
No, but yeah, I'm going to do that out the front. Also, a house has got a spirit, hasn't it? The spirit of the house. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. It
Yeah.
does. I mean, in here in Denmark, they talk about there's like a gnome that's said to reside in all of the houses, and it looks after the house. And I can't remember
Um,
what the word is in Danish, but at Christmas you leave out some offerings for the gnome to say thank you for looking after the house all year. And I've done that since we moved here. I always leave stuff out for it.
And I suppose is that simple act is an act of acknowledgement and gratitude and respect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think one of the things in the new agey world was all about me, manifest for me, give for me, pray to give me.
Yeah.
And none of it talks about leaving offerings of gratitude, or not gratitude necessarily, but just honoring that actually exist alongside us. We're kind of like very naive to think, not you, but me, naive to think I'm the only person, but we actually live on this land, around
Hmm.
whatever, alongside so many unseen things, isn't it?
It's very selfish and me-centered, the whole New Age movement. They never ever talk about giving thanks to beings for their help. And it's kind of like spiritual communism.
Yeah.
It's all me, take. And they are the ones that usually have a problem with people like me earning money through astrology. They're always New Age types, when in fact, throughout history, an astrologer or someone else that a rune reader, they always were rewarded. And it's not like you want to get rich from it, but we too have mouths to feed and bills to pay.
Yeah.
But it's always New Age people that expect it for free. I've noticed that.
Yeah. Um, so I've got two more questions to end on. Um, one of the things I wanted to ask you, so you do very briefly to astrology, because on my understanding, like we got the Western astrology, and then is it called
Sidereal.
sidereal? Do you use sidereal as well? That's one of the things I wanted to ask you.
Well, that's the two different zodiacs that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
Now, Vedic astrology, if you actually translate the texts in Sanskrit, there's a really good astrologer called Victor Kara. I had him on my channel last year. If you translate those texts, they use the tropical zodiac and the sidereal, which is what I use. It's what the ancient Greek astrologers also used. So there are two. One is the stars, one is solar.
So, lovely, thank you. Because people can go back to on your channel, which I'll put the links to, and they can find that conversation that you had with
Yes,
him. So I'll put
yes.
that your channel on the description, and also your website. And one of the other things, like, because I wrote Drago, which is the dog, and you said you've got to be really careful what you bring into your home, because everything you bring into your homes, it's got energetic.
It
Um,
does. Be careful what you name your pets.
I never
I'm
knew
all,
that.
because you're saying that. There's a trend at the moment where people call their dog or their cat Loki, and it brings chaos into their lives because Loki is a god, well, not really, an entity of chaos and trickster type of energy, deceptive. Why would you want to say that every day in your home? Spelling, your words are a spell. So yeah, be careful about what you name them. I mean, I don't say you don't have to go, crazy and worry about it, but don't call your cat demon or something like that. Just be smart about it. Dragon, I like dragons, so I think they're okay. I think dragons did exist once upon a time because they're in all the old stories. I don't think that's a bad word.
No. Well, we didn't name him Drago. We adopted him. We did when he was 2.5. So he came with the name Drago.
Yeah.
But I was hoping, like, Maya is named after the month of May, or the goddess Maya or Maya. So do you think that can counterbalance Drago?
Well, maybe, but I don't think that it has caused any problems. I don't think it's a bad word.
Good.
So just don't call it stuff like demon or
Yeah.
Loki or after some terrible force. Just be smart about it.
Yeah, and I think that's again, that's worth like really paying attention what we actually bring into our homes because the energy of it, like the TV, when we have a TV into the home, we're opening up this because it is a magic box, isn't it?
It is.
Regardless of like people saying, "Oh, it's just a TV," it's not. It's a porthole for whatever information to come into home. And that's another thing that I learned from Thomas yonks ago, that sea salt being very effective psychic protection, because we should put sea salt or Celtic salt or pure salt in the corners for protection, because I think not you again or anyone else, but I've been a little bit naive into actually what this reality is.
Yeah, it is a good idea to protect your home. Sea salt is one way. I put the Elgi's runes in the four corners of my home, or some people would ask stones. Stones in, shamanism are said to have a spirit. Everything is alive. I put stones there. Ask them, can you please guard? There are many different ways. And of course, it's in the West, unfortunately, this kind of belief or practice is seen as superstition and
Yeah.
stupid, but this is the age of darkness, and a lot of people have serious problems these days, but they don't ever connect the stuff that they're doing. I mean, with TV, I would never watch horror films. Never. I don't like them. I don't enjoy it. And I think that you hear stories about people experiencing paranormal activity in their home afterwards. And I just think why do you want to watch that? It's hideous.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it goes back to our ancestors, doesn't it? Like, oh, and one other thing, sorry, I keep thinking, and I'm aware of the time because your time is important. Um, Another new agey thing is like how we should love and forgive everyone. And then sometimes we don't have to forgive somebody. Sometimes we can say, you've wronged us, but that's frowned upon in the new age movement, isn't it?
Yeah. The New Age movement is really just a kind of more colorful version of Christianity.
Yeah.
And it's modern. This whole thing about one God is a very, new notion when you look at the history of the beliefs in the world. And I think that there was no greater curse than to tell someone to turn the other cheek, to love your enemies, to forgive everyone. Whereas if you look at what the pagans believed, honor was really important to them, and they would have avenged wrongs, and they wouldn't have associated with people that were immoral. So this whole honor thing we're really lacking that now. And the New Age is similar to Christianity. Do what you want and then ask for forgiveness, or, forgive, and everything's just going to be okay. But it doesn't, I don't think it works that way. And our ancestors never would have believed that. And it's horrible to tell someone who's been abused, who's traumatized, you must forgive them. No, absolutely not.
No. And yeah, no. We can choose to kind of like find a way to release that trauma and heal from that trauma, but you know what they've done is done, and what it's wrong, end off at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there any kind of like, to wrap it up, is there any, if someone like wants to learn more about ancestral ways, can you recommend a book, or can you recommend people that can not guide them? That sounds very, any words of wisdom on that front? Any?
Well, I do the ancestral reading. I can do a rune reading, or I can do it with astrology. I'm writing a book on ancestral astrology, but you don't have to. Um, you can do it yourself. Just start to honor your ancestors at the appropriate times. Take note of these ancestral wounds that keep repeating, or the ancestral curse, the family curse. What is it? How do you contribute to that yourself? Because a lot of people repeat things or do things that their parents did. So look at all of those things. You don't have to pay anyone. You can pay me if you want, but you don't have to.
Mhm.
And in fact, there should be no gatekeepers with this, because it's important. The earth is never going to heal until people look at these wounds and free themselves of this huge weight that they're carrying around.
I think that's a perfect way to end this beautiful podcast. Fiona, I can't thank you enough for your time and energy because I literally give you a little series of questions I'm going to ask you, and then I just go diving down deep and deep and deep. Um,
That's
but I
why I
really,
love talking to you, Jenny, because it's never boring and you ask me really good questions. I really enjoy it.
oh, bless you. Thank you so much. But I'm really A, going to speak to Alona, and B, I really going to want to subscribe to your Substack because I think, in that like mind tribe community, that safety, like the people you talk to, I think people can learn so much and get so much from what you're offering. I think you're phenomenal. But
Thank you.
thank you so much. I'm going to I'm going to pass it over to you in a sec, but no, I'll allow you to say thank you and goodbye, Fiona.
Thank you very much, and thanks for watching, everyone. And thank you again, Jenny.
My pleasure. Thank you. And as I said, I'm going to link in the description how you can reach out to Fiona on Substack, her YouTube channel, and her webpage, and really go and have a look at or your conversations you've had with other people. It's incredible. But thank you so much, everyone, for listening, and have a lovely day. I'm going to do that bit where I stop recording. So thank you and take care and lots of love.